Well, hello guys, welcome back to my channel. Thank you so much for coming back. You know, it's really difficult trying to manage life when you know something is inherently wrong with your parent. You may grow up under this parent believing that, you know, life wasn't as bad as maybe you thought, or you may look back and say, oh my God, I had a traumatizing childhood. How in the world did I get through it? You know, I think it's sometimes really easy to go into denial and struggle within yourself to understand what is going on here. And when you finally realize that, okay, my parent meets the criteria for this, then you start to open your mind a little bit more, and maybe you find some other characteristics, and then you get confused because you don't know exactly where your parent fits in terms of criteria. You know, that's psychology. We're not 100%, right? We operate in the gray. We don't operate in the black and the white, if you know what I mean. I'm hoping that in today's video, my clarification of symptoms and criteria may help you understand your parent. Now, I'm only going to be focusing on two specific disorders. One is a borderline personality disorder in the mother, and two is a narcissistic personality disorder in the father. And when you have two parents that come together like this and they have you, it can be a tornado of ups and downs in your life, from childhood to adolescence to late adulthood. Before we jump into that, let me briefly introduce myself. My name is Tamara, and I'm an internationally and board certified trauma therapist. I'm also licensed in mental health, and I specialize within my private practice in treating children, teens, and families, as well as adults who are dealing with trauma. Well, let's go ahead and jump in. So when I meet with parents in my practice, I love all the parents that I have been blessed enough to come in contact with. You know, they tend to be really good parents, caring and compassionate and worried about their children's well-being. They're seeking out professional input, skills, strengths, so that they can help their child become the best that he or she can be. But there are times, and over the past 14 years, there have been times in my career where a parent who is extremely unhealthy, toxic, abusive, neglectful, egocentric, careless, has slipped through the cracks and has been sitting in front of me trying to I think the word is kind of defend their position and defend their behaviors. And they push the child to me in the attitude of fix my child. These kind of parents tend to be the problem 100% of the time. And it's my job as someone with authority or knowledge in my field to tell that child, whether it's a child, a teen, or an adult child, that you are not the problem. And so in many of the videos in this series this month and a little bit of last month, I've been trying to get across to you that the central theme of each video is that it isn't you, it's the parent. Now, what do you do when a parent is someone with borderline personality disorder that's not well treated, that isn't following treatment protocols, and doesn't believe that they need help? What do you do with that kind of parent? And then what do you do if you have a father who's just as unstable, but in a different way, right? What do you do with this kind of father when your mother also has a personality disorder? When you get two parents and their personality disorders clash, you get domestic violence, you get post-traumatic stress disorder growing up, or complex PTSD. You get emotional instability and reactivity. You get impulsivity and sometimes ADHD symptoms, inability to pay attention for long periods of time, inability to stay on one thing for, a certain period of time. You bounce around, right? You're restless, anxious, maybe severely depressed. These kind of parents are detrimental. So the mother, we're going to say for the purposes of this video, we're going to say that the mother is borderline personality. Then we're going to also say that the father, for the purposes of this video, is narcissistic personality. Okay? Let me highlight what the differences are here. So mothers with borderline personality disorder who are not being properly treated, who seem to be destabilizing their home environment, they're impulsive, right? They're reckless, they've always engaged in stormy relationships. These kind of parents, or this kind of mother, I should say, might show these particular symptoms right up here on the screen. Okay, so they may be reactive, impulsive, right? labile, meaning that they have emotional roller coaster type moods, right? Labile, meaning that they're switchable. You don't know what you're going to get from 1 minute to the next. Okay. And they are unpredictable. You don't know how this mother is going to receive what you're going to tell them. You don't know whether you're going to get in trouble today or not. You don't know if your mother's going to love you today or hate you tomorrow, right? Unpredictable. The father, here are the characteristics right on the screen, right? A narcissistic dad is going to be egocentric, self-centered, okay? Basically, they're the same things. Absent due to work or education, and they tend to cling to that, right? Because their identity is built in that pursuit of higher education and that pursuit of employment, right? They build their reputation around what they do for a living or what they study. It's a part of their ego, so they have to feed it, right? This is not the kind of dad that just works all the time to provide. This is the kind of dad that does what he does because his ego needs it, and his reputation is built on it, and his ego is desiring it, right? It's almost like a hunger that he has to feel. And if he doesn't go to work, and if he doesn't go to school, his ego doesn't get filled, right? His ego doesn't get fed, I should say. And then, he starts to feel weak and vulnerable and inadequate, okay? You're also going to see an arrogant type of father, right? Who's a narcissist. They are detached emotionally. They don't care. And the minute you achieve, they are there touting you, right? Touting your achievements, bringing up what they've done for you, bringing up the hard work that you've done, only to shine the light on themselves, right? So what do you do, right? What do you do when you have these kind of parents? You have a mother who's emotionally unstable, right? You have a father who is psychologically unstable, and he's narcissistic. When these two parents come together, it is likely that you are going to experience a ton of symptoms. So let's get into that. Now, I have highlighted in previous videos what symptoms you are likely to experience. Go ahead and check out my most recent video on, the symptoms and the consequences of having a borderline personality parent, okay, or a parent with borderline personality disorder. That's the proper way to say it, okay? So go ahead and check that video out. But you're likely to experience a series of emotions, a series of psychological traps, right? A series of what's the word I'm looking for, guys? Post-traumatic stress disorder. So go check that video out. You're going to get some information on how these kind of parents negatively impact you. So let's get into talking about what you're likely to see in these particular parents. The first thing that you're likely to see is that these parents will undermine your independence. They will undermine your independence, right? A mother with borderline personality disorder really feels inadequate, and they don't want anything to get in the way of their emotional relationship with you. It's almost like a unhealthy, codependent kind of relationship. They need you. They thirst for your affection and your admiration. So they do not want you to be independent because you're going to go over here and do your own thing. You're most likely to also go over here and get into another relationship, whether that's a romantic one, a friendship, or build up a family relationship. They don't want that because it's more that other individual takes from them. Right? So let's say, for example, you have a mother with borderline personality disorder and you are dating someone. They may try to sabotage that relationship because he or she is taking you away from them. Okay. So you're in the way of that emotional codependency that they have. And so they undermine your independence so that you don't go over here and create a new life or a new relationship. Okay. The narcissistic parent, however, undermines your independence because they are already inadequate and they need to feel like they're on top. And if you become independent and you tend to fly and supersede and succeed, right? That father is likely to feel inadequate. And so he's going to undermine your independence for that reason. So both of these parents undermine your independence, but in a different way. It's tricky. All right, let's go to the next one. The next thing is that you're most likely going to get both parents boasting of their social reputation. Now, the mother with borderline personality disorder, for example, may boast of social reputation because behind the scenes, the family is a mess, right? She knows that. She knows that she's not doing her best. She knows that she's selfish and self-centered and emotionally labile. She knows that she's not providing all the stability that she should to her family. But one thing she is successful at is faking it, playing the role, appearing a certain way in society. And so that's important to the mother with borderline personality disorder, okay? Now, for the father with narcissistic personality disorder, it's important to understand that this particular father boasts of social reputation because he needs that stimuli, right? He needs to feel important. He needs to feel wanted. He needs to feel loved. He needs to feel paid attention to. So he's going to boast of social reputation for that reason. Again, both parents doing the same thing, but in a very different way. Okay. The next thing that I have seen is that both of these parents will cut you off from other people in your life. Now, this is just a little bit different than you gaining independence and creating a relationship over here. What's happening here is, you are starting to bond with other people. It's stretching your mind. It's also stretching your ability to really see your parent. And they don't like that. They want you to stay narrow. They want you to stay focused. They want you to stay one-sided or one-minded. For lack of a better word. They want you to see them through a particular lens. And if you stretch your lens to include other people in your world, you're likely to become knowledgeable about who they really are. And they can't tolerate that. The mother with borderline personality disorder may not tolerate your other relationships because they are opening your eyes to the emotional instability of your mother. And so she has to cut that relationship off somehow. They have to cut that off because then it's going to remove the mask that they have been wearing, right? They're trying to save face in a way. Now, the narcissistic father may cut you off from other people because he doesn't want the competition. He doesn't want to have to feel as if you are leaving him behind. So he has to cut that relationship off again because it's competition. He doesn't want that. Okay, so once again, guys, both parents do the same thing, but for different reasons. The next thing that you are likely to see is deep denial for both parents. Now, the narcissistic father is in denial about how he is negatively impacting his family. He thinks he's doing everything wonderfully, right? He doesn't see any flaws. And then the mother with borderline personality disorder is in deep denial about how her emotional instability is negatively impacting you. So you could be struggling with PTSD or complex PTSD. You could be struggling with depression of your own, anxiety, social phobias, whatever. And your mother's never going to attribute your symptoms to something they may have done. Okay? So they are both in deep, deep denial, but for different reasons. The next thing that I have seen is guilt trips, gaslighting, and stonewalling in both parents, and again, for very different reasons. Now, the mother with borderline personality disorder may do these things, right, to save face, to feel interconnected with you, to gain the control, to maintain the control, or to undermine your independence so that you will be reliant upon them, okay? So they're kind of creating a codependency or trauma bond, if you will. I talk about trauma bonds right up here in this video, so go ahead and check that out at the end of the video. I think you're going to find some helpful information in that recent video that I did. The narcissistic father, however, will do the same thing, but he does it because he feels he's important and he has to reduce you so that he can stay on the top of things, right? He can't stay on the top of things if you are smarter than him, stronger than him, right? Courageous and strong-willed, right? He can't deal with that. So he has to minimize you. So he gaslights, stonewalls, right? And he also guilt trips you. He may blame you as well and use shame against you, okay? Both of these parents operate out of parental obligation as well, right? The mother with borderline personality disorder is very aware of the fact that, they don't have to be a parent, but they are because they feel that they are obligated to do it, right? It's not as if they love you, and, you're the daughter, you're the son, and I just want the best for you. It is, I'm unhealthy. I know I'm unhealthy, but I'm going to prove that I am a good mother, and I'm going to make sure that I uphold my obligation and I do it correctly. Okay. Or you may see the kind of parent that feels like this is my masterpiece that I have created and I am going to stay, in the forefront just by creating this human being. And so they kind of take the child on as a project and something to show to everyone as, see, I'm worthwhile. The narcissistic father may do the same thing, and he may highlight your accomplishments in public because he wants other people to look at him him in a positive way. So again, both parents do the same thing, but in slightly different ways, okay? This can get really complicated, so I hope you're keeping up with me through the video. Let me know in the comment section below if you've seen these kind of parents, okay? Let's go to the next one. You might also see indifference and self-aggrandizement. Now, I feel like I kind of touched on this in, different areas of the previous criteria that I discussed, but I think self-aggrandizement is important for me to point out. The narcissistic father engages in self-aggrandizement because what he does is he highlights the child's accomplishments. My daughter is an attorney. My son is a judge. My daughter's a surgeon. My grandson is a politician who's running for mayor, right? They highlight these particular things for one specific reason, okay? And it's to get the social praise and reinforcement that they desire. This is the narcissistic father that I'm referencing here. He's only doing this to get the praise for himself, to get that positive reinforcement that he is used to feel wonderful about himself, to feel empowered, okay? The mother may do it because she needs to feel like she's created something out of her messy and labile type of emotional reactivity and life. Okay, I'll put it that way for lack of a better explanation. This parent may be really emotionally detached, right? So indifferent, but at the same time, they recognize that I am the parent here and I have to add to this situation, and I will do so to save me, to save face, to save the reputation of our family, even though deep down, I could really care less. Okay, and the narcissistic father will do the same, but for a very different reason. Okay, the next thing is a need for validation and admiration. Both parents need that. The narcissistic father may really run with that, may try to live his life through his son, may try to live his life through his daughter. Is really focused on sports and social connections and reputation and social capital, and the list just goes on. I mean, a very shallow, very emotionally detached kind of a father. The mother with borderline personality disorder may feel neglected and abused, minimized by the father, and then begins to take things out on the child because they are not being validated, right? They feel like their hard work is going unnoticed by the father, okay? Because the father is distant, he's indifferent, he's narcissistic. So the mother kind of feeds on that, and she may put the child in the middle, right? Or she may engage in behaviors that will cause the father to react. It can really get ugly with these two kind of parents because they are both emotionally and psychologically unstable, but in different ways. And last but not least, I think both of these parents have a way of portraying themselves as the victim and the one and only. When they are dealing with a child, whether that's a child, a teen, an adult child, they have a way of playing the victim, guilt tripping you, blaming you, and making you feel like you're responsible. The narcissistic father may do the same as well, and the mother with borderline personality disorder may be very resentful that you haven't praised them, that you haven't put them up on a pedestal. They may really create this triangle. And I talk about triangles right up here in this video if you want to go back and check that out. They create this triangle within the family so that they can get what they want, so that they can stay on top. They're manipulating for validation from other people in the family. It's a really ugly situation when a child is put into the middle of this, when an adolescent is trying to develop and grow in a healthy way in the middle of this, and when an adult child is trying to live their life in the middle of a situation like this. It's really complicated, guys. Let me know in the comment section below if this video was helpful, and also let me know if you've experienced this. Like, I have so many clients who are going through this right now, and if only they knew what they were dealing with, it would be just a little bit better, knowing that you have a mother with borderline personality and knowing that you have a narcissistic father can make all the difference, because then you don't seek for their validation of you anymore. You go within for your own validation. We're going to talk about ways that you can heal from these kind of parents in the next video. I'll see you out then. Bye-bye.